What if the sun started dying right now? Imagine this yellow dwarf star ending its existence much sooner than it should. What would that look like? Would the sun retreat to something small and cold, or burn big and bright before vanishing completely? And what effect would this have on Earth? This is What If, and here's what would happen if the sun started dying right now. Our sun was born about 4.6 billion years ago, when a giant space cloud made of gas and dust collided with some super intense energy waves and collapsed in on itself. Ever since, it's been generating energy from nuclear fusion reactions in its core. Each second, this huge nuclear reactor converts 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium, the source of all the sun's heat and light. But one day, billions of years from now, the sun will run out of its hydrogen fuel. What if that day were to come much sooner? What if, instead of 5 billion more years to live, the sun only had another 5 days? At that rate, after a day, the sun would shine 10% brighter. If you love tropical weather, you might think this is a good thing, but don't get too excited. 10% may not sound like a big deal, but for our planet, the change would be significant. The Earth would be baked with the same amount of heat that once turned Venus into the cooked volcanic planet we know today. The oceans would start evaporating, and all the plants would burn to a crisp. Plant-eating animals would begin to starve. Vegetarians might consider changing their diet. By the end of the third day of this intense heat, they'd be able to boil a chicken right in the ocean. Ugh, salty. That's because by that time, the sun would be burning 40% hotter than it is right now. Surviving on Earth's surface would present similar problems you'd have if you were living on Venus. Trust me, you don't want to invest in property on that hellish planet. On day 5, the sun would finally have burned through all of its hydrogen. For our dear old friend, this would be the beginning of the end. The helium ash built up in the sun's core would become unstable and collapse under its own weight. The core would be getting hotter and more dense, but the sun itself would be expanding. And when we say expanding, we mean it. It would turn into a red giant, big enough to swallow Mercury and Venus. Even Earth might disappear inside this hot, swollen star. Soon, the helium at the sun's core would ignite in an enormous flash. The sun itself would shrink from a red giant to a red